The love of filmmaking it starts with films, I think. You know what I mean? When you watch films in the various ways you watch them, whether you got family members. I have family members that took me to the theater, to go see films. Early experiences like that just kind of, they burn into your subconscious, And then, of course, you start watching stuff, on television and whatnot. In my day, I was watching stuff on VHS. Y'all don't even know anything about it. You don't even know what that means. But, in catching films that way, that kind of translates to like a love of storytelling. I was a comic book nerd. Read a lot of comic books and was, drawing and stuff a lot too. And so, truthfully, I wanted to be a comic book artist. But my mother was like, that's not happening in this house. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's just like, no way. Because she's just like, you can't make a living doing that. But I had this love for storytelling. And what I came to understand is these little panels that I was drawing from my comics, they translated quite well into storyboards for filmmaking. And, my mom encouraged me in that side of it and said, okay, you can make some money, probably more in television than film. Film, you're running around, asking people for money, and television, there's somebody that's paying for this TV show. So she encouraged that side of it, and then it was, in my exploration of working with cameras and editing. At that time, as a young person, you listen to the music, and music is that's your lifeblood, and so you just you feel closest to music artists. And I just started taking those cameras around and chasing around music artists and trying to get them to let me shoot them and do videos and stuff. So that's where that became possible for me. I suppose I never really thought you see your heroes as filmmakers. You see, for me at that time, it was Spike Lee and John Singleton and Steven Spielberg and James Cameron. You see these people, but for me, it wasn't really I couldn't visualize being in that space, but I could do some cool visuals for, an artist that I knew around the way. And that was my version of it. And then from there, once I got into music videos, it led to the other filmic art forms, television and film and whatnot. So,
because you also mentioned during the music and motion part that back then, well, not to be too dinosaur time.
It's okay. I'm Stone Age, man. You could go there.
You said they used to do short films for music videos or for albums. So I guess that also played into that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the wonderful thing about music videos is that to me, there's no rules with them.
Right.
They're a great form for any aspiring director just to play around and try things out. And that not only means playing around with equipment and different cameras and different styles, but also the different forms of filmmaking, So yes, there's performance videos that we see with a lot of pop artists, but then there's also short film aesthetic, hearing a song and having it inspire a story is a wonderful thing that you can then try to express that and do that. So I definitely went through my phase of, being inspired by songs and wanting to tell stories with them, almost as a soundtrack. So, yeah.
How do you find inspiration when you're creating a new music video?
Inspiration is an interesting thing. It comes from everything. It comes from lived experience, and it comes from your circumstances at the time. But I think when it comes from a music video, it has to start with the music. There's an emotional feeling that you get from music that you cannot explain it. It comes from the heart, it comes from the gut, and you hear something and it starts to interact with your life in a way and hits you in some way, You can hear a song and it can make you cry, and you might not even understand why.
Yeah.
So there's a beautiful quality of music that I think, in a wonderful way, is actually, I say that music and film are sisters, They're sister art forms because films also have that kind of a feel. You can watch Wong Kar-wai, you know, In the Mood for Love, you know, from a totally different cultural viewpoint and a different era, and it can touch you in a way that you could never articulate, you know what I mean? But you feel it instinctively. Sometimes you don't even understand a film necessarily, you know what I mean? You might be able to say, like, I think the plot was this, but like it just has a feeling that washes over you. And that is the same thing with music, I feel, you know? Inspiration comes from that point. I think with music videos, you listen to a track and it washes over you in a way. And then you just, I always go with my gut, and just like what I'm feeling is the thing that I want to express. And then you try to draw in, like I said, stuff from your life, other art forms, other inspirations, look at visuals that will help you to articulate that feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
So it's all about making, for me, the best music videos are the ones that feel like the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can feel the emotion there.
Yeah.
I wanted to add, you said music and film are like sisters. Would you say, which one's the older sister, elder?
Well, I think the older sister is probably music, you know? Music's been around a little bit longer than filmmaking per se, you know? Capturing capturing the image was something that was, you know, relatively new in the past, you know, couple hundred years. But music's been around, and you know, I think it's in our DNA. Yeah, I'll tell you the truth, as humankind. You know what I mean? I think that people have been finding rhythmic expression and sounds, and putting sounds together in a way of creating like a universal language. Because that's the beautiful thing about music, is like you know, a piece of music could be created 500 years ago, you know what I mean, or in a totally different culture, and you don't have to understand that language or culture, but it can hit you.
Yeah.
So it's a language all on its own. Yeah.
Sort of a uniting language there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So coming from a background of creating music videos, what kind of things did you learn when transitioning into directing films? And what are some of the biggest differences between the two art forms for you?
I think both art forms have a rhythmic quality to them. There's something about filmmaking where the storytelling has highs and lows that you take an audience on, and there is something about harnessing those qualities in order to tell a satisfying story. I think music inherently has that rhythm built into it, and it does a similar thing, even though you might not realize it. But you know, it's using whatever elements it has to enhance the emotion that you're feeling, and then let you relax into it. It's these kinds of things. So there's definitely a quality about, you know, rhythm that is built into both things. For me, I realized that at a you know, in the beginning of my career, and something that I loved to try to bring together as much as I could when I was using both visuals and music, and something that I love to play around with to this day. It's one of the most satisfying things. You get a chance to put some music to, you know, some imagery. It can have a wonderful effect. Yeah.
So if you had to say, which one would you say came to you more naturally, having dabbled in both now?
I don't know. I don't know if there's one that's like more natural. I mean, music, you know, it inspires, you know, like I said, coming from a music video world, I suppose, you know, music inspired me to get into filmmaking. So I would start it there. But in my feature film, my first feature, 40 Acres, there's a sequence that, you know, we use this wonderful score done by Todor Kabakov, and but I use a couple of needle drops very specifically, and there's a whole sequence, you know, in the middle of the film that's, you know, built around a song and a moment, and putting you in this moment. And so I look for opportunities to do that, to surprise the viewer and the audience, and put them in the character's POV. I love doing that kind of thing. So
yeah. Effective needle drops can be.
Yeah, 100%.
They're hand in hand.
Yeah.
Music and.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to a young person looking to enter the directing world?
I would say it's a difficult industry, so be prepared of what you're going to get into. It takes perseverance and dedication to it, but you know, as somebody much wiser than me has said in the past, like if you love something, it's never going to feel like work, and so it's a reality with this industry, you know, and if you dedicate yourself to this career, becoming a filmmaker or a director or whatever part of the industry that you love, if you love it, you're gonna have your hard times, you're gonna have you have your famine and your feast, but you're gonna continue to love it. So just know that you have to dedicate yourself 100% to it and move with that in your heart. But yeah, I think my best advice is just like, make sure you love it. You know what I mean? And if you do, you'll go far in it. You know what? I'll say another thing. I'll say one other thing to say is like, look for community. Look for community, you know, if you want to get into filmmaking, because it's all about finding that group of people that, you know, they vibe with you, they want to roll with you, they want to grow with you, and you know, you'll find lifelong friends in creativity with people, and that's a beautiful thing, you know. Yeah.
How were you able to find community collaborators as a young person entering the industry?
Look, it's about, you know, finding people that do things that you love. Yeah, just seek out people that are doing interesting things out there that you see, and don't be afraid to reach out. Like, you know, all of us are effectively nerds in our own, you know, in our own circle, you know what I mean? Like, it takes a lot to be a creator and feel like you have something to say with an art form. There's a lot more stable jobs that you could probably get, you know? So don't be afraid to reach out to your fellow nerds and say what's up, and like, let's talk film, let's talk things, and let's talk creating. Yeah.
What do you say is the most important thing that you've learned so far throughout your career as a director?
I do think an important thing to learn, and goes back to the community question, is like you know, film is a collaborative medium, and you're pulling together a group of people to create something that literally does not have to exist. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, find your tribe and enjoy that process of collaborating and creating. And it can be difficult and frustrating and all these things, but it's an enormous rush when you do pull something together and you gain these friendships out of it, and enjoy that process of collaboration and cultivate it, look for it, you know?
Yeah. And as someone who's covered so much creative ground as a filmmaker, how are you approaching the next chapter of your career, and what are you hoping it brings?
I've always been somebody who, you know, sort of sets a goal towards something and then looks to achieve it. I've been very fortunate in the past few years, especially, and enjoyed learning from so many different people as I moved through the television landscape, working with so many different writers and collaborators, different DPs, and also even meeting different directors and seeing how they work. You know, television's been a great playground for me in that respect, and so I'm looking forward to being able to give back in that way and give other people opportunities. You know, I got a chance to do something like that I created a kids show called Utopia Falls a few years ago, and like was able to like hire some of the people who mentored me, you know what I mean, which was really dope, and give some young talent a chance to do something. So I'm very much looking forward to doing more of that. You know, cultivating that kind of an experience for people that, you know, they get a chance to create and do things that also come from a different voice. And I suppose that's probably the next thing, is just like keep trying to tell stories that I don't really see that often, and from cultural perspectives that we don't get to see, and just, you know, to expose that, expose those cultures, expose those people, and let them see something that they haven't seen before of themselves on the screen. And so I look forward to doing more of that, you know.
Yeah. So it really seems like you want to give back to the community that gave to you.
100%. I mean, it has to be a cyclical thing.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
It has to be, and then you get re-inspired. That's the wonderful thing. You know, you work with new people, you see new expressions of creativity, and that just like sparks you, you know, and so you get, you know, selfishly you get that energy back, and it's a beautiful thing too. So yeah.
So we have a quick lightning round of some this or that questions. So
Okay.
we're gonna get to choose. You want to start us off?
Coffee or energy drinks?
Water.
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 That's, you know, you're right.
That's a good answer.
That's true.
Obsessed or never rewatch your work?
I don't mind rewatching my work. Yeah, I think you can learn.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like avoiding shit. Yeah.
Blame the script or the producer?
I think a healthy dose of introspection is good. I think you got to look first at yourself and see if there was something that you could do, you know, better, instead of pointing fingers.
Cut takes early or let them spiral?
Let them spiral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like to get that natural
Yeah.
energy? Yeah.
Run that.
Yeah.
Improvise or over prepare?
Well, if you over prepare, then you can have space for improvisation, because you then know what you need and you can allow that space. I think both are very important.
All right, and as our last one,
Okay.
being a music video director from Toronto, I feel like I'm kind of obligated to ask, Drake or Kendrick?
I mean, I fucks with the boy, you know what I'm saying? I literally did Staying Alive with Drake. I've known Drake for a long time. You know, what he's done for the city is what it is, you know? But I don't look at it like a binary thing. I never look at it like in that perspective. Great art comes from everywhere, and great artists come from everywhere. And just because at a certain moment these two had a tete-a-tete, it doesn't mean I gotta choose. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Healthy dose of competition. Never bad.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it for our
That's our interview.
It was great getting to talk to you.